A look at the papers, L'Equipe, Shooting Star, and oh la la finale. That's a nice one. Let's welcome in Julien to talk about this. Alex Aljoe, hang on. We're going to start on a positive note, okay? Yes. It's good to be right, isn't it, Alex?
Hey! Yeah, it certainly is good to be right. We'll talk about my prediction in a moment, but first of all, I want to talk about the night I had after that brilliant performance from Spain. I went to the rodeo, I went line dancing, I bought this cowboy hat, I bought matching red cowboy boots as well. I had the full Dallas experience. It was a brilliant day all in all, but a superb day for Spain. And I did call it, didn't I? I'll say it again. I didn't get the exact scoreline, but I said a 1-0 win for Spain. So they did even better than I thought they would, but France went missing. The Spain fans were celebrating here after, as you can imagine. The France fans were also in good spirits, which was surprising, but there was a guy beating a drum, running around here, just saying, "Donde estaba Mbappé? Where was Mbappé? Where was Mbappé?" But it's true, where were their superstars? And I think the thing about this Spain team, why they are so good, we hear Luis de la Fuente say it all the time. He says, we're a family. It's the fact that it isn't about one superstar. It isn't even about Lamine Yamal, is it? It's the fact there are so many talented players in that squad, all playing for each other, and we saw that yesterday. And I do fear for England, I must say, if they do get to the final.
Oh, gosh, okay. Well, let's not get there yet, Alex. We're starting on a positive note. Luis de la Fuente did say, though, they may have come up against the best squad in the world, but the best squad in the world came up against the best team in the world. Jules, sorry for France's loss. Nedum was wondering why you're not wearing your France jersey today.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, just nothing went our way, nothing went right really from what Deschamps did in his team selection to start with, Tchouaméni and Barcola, especially the mistake by Ding, I think changes massively obviously the dynamic of the game, and I think Spain was still would have been too strong for us, but that penalty, to give away a penalty in such a stupid way in a game like this is 1, unacceptable, 2, unforgivable, and 3, again, put Spain in such a much stronger position, even because then they have the lead, they can just control the game and pass the ball, and they do that so well. Then you lose Saliba, and really the plan A, according to Kylian Mbappé, was to go high and press and try to recover the ball as high as possible. The French surely never worked on that because he looks so disjointed, he looks so bad, that you have to question not just Deschamps' tactics, but also what on earth they did the last 4 days. And even more than that, because for the last 2 weeks, we knew that this was a very likely semi-final anyway. So the lack of preparation from the French, I think Deschamps' mistakes show, and then the players, the stars not showing up. I don't know what happened to Michael Olise. I don't know what happened to Ousmane Dembélé. And again, if things don't work, change them. And Deschamps never did that. He just went position for position, swap one for another, Shaka or Doué. And again, the second goal come from a mistake by Désiré Doué, not following, Pedro Porro and his markup. And that was it. And really, it was so disappointing from the French that they never showed up.
I think we did expect more, Nedum, from this game from the French side.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Jules, I was speaking to him during the game, and I think some of those issues that he's mentioned there, you could see them pick up very early in the match. I think the likes of Olise and a few others, you could see that they were almost half a step behind from the get-go. And they were essentially trying to press and so on, but it did look very disjointed, whereas you looked at the Spanish side of things, and they just never let anybody breathe, whether it was the goalkeeper, the back line, the midfield, the forward line. It was relentless. So those French players, as well as them not being able to win the ball back as well as say they wanted to, they're also having to play under significant pressure, and they're good enough to be able to do it. But that's only possible if everybody's on the same page. And I think yesterday was very much a case that they weren't in that position. Like I think going through the tactics and so on, the 4-2-4 as such for the French, you can see the real benefit when they're in the ascendancy. But in this game, with Spain's 3 in midfield and those like Baena that would come in and make an extra number, which Ali Moreno called yesterday, by the way, credit to him, you would need a strong performance from the likes of Michael Olise to be able to drop into that midfield and help out in that area with and without the ball. He probably had his worst game of the whole tournament. And I think as soon as they lost that midfield battle and that engine room, it was Spain's day. And I think it's another reminder of like the Spanish collective. Obviously they have stars, but it's the collective. And for France, yes, they do play as a collective, relatively speaking, but Spain do it better. That's men, women, kids, that's everything. That's the Spanish way, isn't it?
Yeah, and their biggest star, Lamine Yamal, didn't even have to be at his sparkling best on the night, Ali.
Well, what I do know is that clearly without any doubt whatsoever, Luis de la Fuente was watching our show. And he was watching the sandbox. Oh, he was watching the sandbox, because what we discussed yesterday played out exactly on the field. Where, and this is what's surprising, that if we're discussing it, you have to imagine that France would have been discussing it. Naturally speaking, the numbers don't add up for France in the midfield. So you need help so that Spain didn't have the numbers advantage that they had over the course of the whole match. And yet France were unable to address it. They were unable to address the numbers mismatch. They were unable to address the fact that you needed additional players to step into certain positions. They were unable to address the fact that when Spain, even when they lost the ball, they were pressing and counter-pressing, and they were forcing France into mistakes. It was a very compliant performance by France, in which they just kind of accepted that, I guess we're not going to see the ball, so Spain's just going to keep the ball, and there's not a whole lot that we can do. And that was surprising, because what we saw from France over the course of the whole tournament was a team that was pressing together, a team that was regaining possession of the ball higher up the field, and we did not see any of that. It tells you that the quality of play of Spain was so good in the midfield that they were given a clinic. It was a flawless execution of a tactical masterpiece from players at a very elite level. And when you have that, when you have Rodri playing at the level that he played, Fabian Ruiz, Alex Baena, who I think his role was really important for this team jumping into positions, we don't have to worry about Lamine Yamal having to be the guy, because the totality of the group was far superior. The game was only 2-0, but it felt like a beatdown. Yeah. That's how good Spain were.
Listen, I understand Spanish midfield and how important it was to it. But there were a couple of opportunities, a couple of moments in the game as well. While Michael Olise was not having a good game by any measure, giving away the ball far too cheaply, there were a couple of times that he dropped into space in those pockets, turned and played a couple of slide rule balls into Kylian Mbappé that would get any French fan off their seat, because we've seen this time and time again. Yet Spain were able to snuff those out incredibly easy. And once you see that, once you see Olise in space, with time, picking out the passes that he normally does, and Kylian Mbappé unable to get a sniff, I just started to appreciate the job that the Spanish defense was doing. And we've spoken about Unai Simon and his continued selection by De La Fuente, and it continues to show himself why. Because he plays as this high sweeper keeper, and he understands that back four and his role in it. Maybe he's not the shot stopper of the others who are behind him, but he complements this defense, but particularly this defense in this mood, wonderfully well. And as a result, you could just, once those two occasions happened, you just felt we could play here for the next 2 days, and France were not going to get an opportunity.
Let's hear from Kylian Mbappé and what he had to say after this loss to France, now that they are out of the World Cup. He said, we were 3 against 2 in midfield and against Spain. That's hard. Fabian Ruiz and Rodri had plenty of time to play. There was lack of communication on the press. I think we should have done man-to-man press and forced them to run with us. We didn't play the game we wanted, technically, tactically. Even when we recovered the ball, our first touches were not good enough. We were too sloppy technically. Jules, your thoughts on what he says here?
Yeah, I think he's spot on. I thought he gave quite an exceptional interview, to be fair, on the back of it. It's never easy as a player when you've just played, especially a game like that, especially when you lose, to give like I think a fair reflection of what you felt as an analysis of what happened. And I thought he was perfect. For me, this is a massive dig at Deschamps and at the tactics again. Because for everything we explained with the boys and me just earlier, but for Mbappé to say himself, I think really says a lot, because he's spot on everything. All that quote that we've just said. But I think that there's another thing as well. Ryan Shaki was also speaking after the game and was really, really good. And he said something that we've been saying all along. The French players got carried away. Massive way. They got overconfident going into this game because they were great so far. They were the better team in the tournament, even if they hadn't really played anybody bar Morocco, and Morocco were a bit disappointing on the day. And they really thought they could walk this game, and they didn't. And Shaki was very honest with it. when we asked him the question, and he said it's a very good question, he said, yeah, I think when things are easy for us, we get too carried away. And that was also part of the problem, because I think they approached that game, all of them, including Deschamps too, maybe not in the right mindset.
I appreciate the honesty from Kylian Mbappé and the assessment, his own assessment of the game. But he's asking to do man-to-man press all over the field. Man-to-man includes Kylian Mbappé. Man-to-man includes that he has to press and he has to chase around. And he is not the one that does that naturally. And so while I appreciate the honesty, and honesty is the best policy, he shouldn't be the one saying we should press man-to-man all over the field, because he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it for Real Madrid. He doesn't do it for Spain. For France either. So, again, appreciate the honesty, but you're part of the issue. It's not like you're excluded from this. Part of the reason as to why perhaps they don't do it is because you're not willing to do it. And you're the one leading this team from the front.
So that's the front side of things. Let me quickly touch on Rodri, if I can, given that it's a Man City player. Is he back to the best? Is he back to the best, the form that got... Sorry, our producer's upset that Alex has lost a hat.
Oh, no!
Is he back to his Ballon d'Or best?
It was time. It was time.
I don't know. The Ballon d'Or best thing was based on like a year's worth of work. But I think you could see as this tournament's been going on, it's been growing and growing into it. And I think Guardiola said last season that people see the best of Rodri at this World Cup. And I think it's proven to be the case. I think his relationship alongside Fabian Ruiz yesterday was excellent, alongside of Dani Olmo as well. Like, everybody in around that field were very much connected to him. And he looked incredible. He was dictating the tempo of the game, being in the right position at the right time, applying pressure high up the field, sometimes being the guy that sweeps up at the back end as well. I thought it was a great performance, and yeah, Spain deserve a ton of credit. And, to sort of mention something that really impressed me from them in this game. So everyone knows about Kylian Mbappe's speed and so on. Mbappé was caught offside so many times yesterday. And to do that, it means that you are trying to be aggressive on the front foot, higher up the field. Most teams that would be scared of that speed would drop deeper and deeper and deeper, but Spain never let that be the case. And that starts, at the front, in the midfield, at the back, and Rodri's a big part of that, because he wouldn't just sit in that sixth position. He would go wherever he needed to go to disrupt the game. But then as soon as they have the ball, he was always available and looked after the ball as well. It was an incredible performance from a player that has been incredible. And I think with good health, I don't know if he'll be obviously Ballon d'Or level anyway, but if he plays like that, what a player he is.
Yeah, and now, Alex, the pendulum swings very much back in Spain's favour. People saying, were they underestimated? Who forgot that they were European champions? And now here they are in another final.
Seems so smug saying that, you can't believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one moment as well that really stood out to me towards the end of the match. They were passing it around. It almost looked like they were just going through a training ground routine. And every time the Spain player got the ball, whoever it was, there was an ole, ole, ole. And it was so hard to believe that we were watching a World Cup semi-final, Spain up against this incredible France team, and the whole stadium, well, not the whole stadium, all the Spain fans with their oles. And Luis de la Fuente said after the match that he feels like they've recaptured the spirit of 2010, the last time they got to a World Cup final, and we know what happened then. But honestly, Spain were an absolute joy to watch yesterday.
I wonder who had more rhythm, Spain in their possession or Alex line dancing last night.
Alex line dancing, obviously. You know what?
There is no video evidence, I will have you know, so don't ask for it.
They'll find it, Alex, they'll find it, trust me.
That's what you think.
The production team here, they will find it. Jules, what Alex is saying there about the Olés, it's been picked up in the Spanish press this morning as well. How does it feel to know that the French team, the favourites, this big team that everyone was saying is so fearsome, getting Olés against them?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, the most disappointing, and again, we go back to Deschamps, for example. Adrien Rabiot is on a yellow card. He's probably the best French player, or the least worst in that first half, and yeah, you take him off at half-time. What? Because he's on a yellow card? What? No player who's taken an early yellow card can still manage that and finish a game, even of this caliber, even in a World Cup. And that was mind-blowing. To see Rabiot being taken off at half-time was mind-blowing. I mean, already Deschamps had picked Tchouaméni ahead of Koné, which was a mistake, because as we saw, Tchouaméni was not fit enough to play a game like this. And for a player like him, who's quite slow already, he's a really good player, but he's quite slow. In a game like this, with the kind of intensity that Spain put it, and the way they move the ball, you need somebody who is far more mobile than Tchouaméni. We in possession and out of possession, which Koné is and Tchouaméni isn't. So that is bad. But the French could not get near any Spanish players. There's this incredible stat, I think, at halftime, Porro, Cubarsí, Laporte and Rodri had won 16 of their 19 duels. That means that 90% of the duels were won by those 4 players in those matchup key areas, because Porro is against Barcola, Cubarsí and Laporte obviously against Julien, and then Rodri against Olise. In those areas, the French could just not get the ball at no point. And I think if you don't win your duels, it's very simple. If you don't win second balls, if you don't win the duels, if you're already bad technically against a better team than you're going to struggle all along. And that's exactly what happened. And credit to Spain, they were incredible. They were much better than I thought they would be in this game, to be fair. But the French were terrible, far worse than we all expected them to be.
Is this as much on Deschamps, as Jules is saying, as Mbappe's alluding to in his quote after the game?
I think it's on both Deschamps and the players. Now, granted, we could blame Deschamps for poor selections, poor tactics, but when Michael Olise can't make a 10-yard pass, when Dembele can't make a 10-yard pass, you can't put that aspect of it on Deschamps. Kylian Mbappé was unable to find any room anywhere on the park. And again, you could put that down to the service, but it's a World Cup semi-final. You've got to ask more of Kylian Mbappé in those moments to change things. And yes, there were underperformances throughout midfield. At the back, probably the less said about Dean, the better. Those are individual issues as opposed to tactical.
OK. Alex, get your hat back on. You've got a flight to catch. We know that. Thank you so much for being with us.
There you go.